Hey everyone! Spider-Man Unlimited was cancelled after just one season, but it still remains beloved by many Spider-Man fans, including myself. I was deeply disappointed that the show didn't continue, as many plotlines were left unfinished, and the story ended at the most inconvenient point. However, the series writer Larry Brody posted materials on his website that contained information about the second season. He even uploaded the full script of the first episode of the second season. I am very grateful to Larry Brody for sharing this information. Thanks to him, most of us learned about what could have been the continuation of the series. I already released a video on the topic of the second season, but since I love Spider-Man Unlimited, I wanna supplement that video with more information about the second season. We will analyze all the information and answer the question of whether Spider-Man Unlimited could have become a great, completed Spider-Man animated series. The last episode of the first season ended at a very intriguing moment. The Synoptic released spores that were supposed to destroy all life on the planet. The first episode of the second season, or the 14th in total, was supposed to be called Destiny Unleashed Part 2. It would have continued the story from that very point. Thank goodness Larry Brody uploaded the full script of this episode, so we can analyze it thoroughly. Now we understand how the hero survived the spore release. The laboratory building collapsed, trapping everyone under its rubble. However, Spider-Man managed to find a way out by breaking a hole in the wall. Emerging through it, he notices that the city is partially destroyed due to the ongoing spore rain from the symbiotes. Meanwhile, we see the Vulture dodging spores, as well as Shane helping a man get rid of a symbiote. Spider-Man and the rebels, along with Brock and Cassidy, try to move under the cover of debris. Lord Tiger joins them, reporting that Sir Rem and the High Evolutionary perished under the rubble. Spider-Man invites Tiger to join them, as he wants to preserve civilization. They head to Borowski's laboratory, which has equipment that can separate people from symbiotes. Brock and Cassidy lose consciousness and feel unwell due to being separated from their symbiotes. At this point, Cletus notices Carnage and Venom approaching. He decides to feign unconsciousness, waiting to merge with them. The Goblin leaves the group to save his family. Seizing the moment, Cassidy directs Brock to the symbiotes, and they merge again. It's worth noting that Eddie resisted this, as he did in the last season. He would rather die as a sick man than become Venom again. A tense fight ensues between the group and the symbiotes, during which one of the symbiotes consumes Bromley. In the end, the rebels manage to escape from Venom, Carnage and Bromley's symbiote. They head to Borowski laboratory with Lord Tiger. At the same time, X-51 sacrifices his personality so that the High Evolutionary's Machine Man no longer pose a threat to humans. However, his binary interface will live on in the central processor. This is a very significant moment. In my opinion, such a sacrifice shows that X-51 is not just intelligent, but has feelings and understands the value of life. At the same moment, Naoko struggles with the spores, and one begins to consume her. The Goblin arrives to help and saves his family. Shane recognizes his father by voice, but the Goblin is grabbed by Machine Man, who starts fighting him. However, a few seconds later, he sets the Goblin down and announces in X-51's voice that the update is complete. It turns out that X-51 succeeded in reprogramming the High Evolutionary's Machine Man. The Goblin removes his mask and embraces his wife, but a symbiote crawls up her leg. Meanwhile, the caster of Wundagore Knight collapses, with Karen inside. The Vulture saves her and tries to carry her to safety, but they are overwhelmed by a wave of spores, and symbiotes consume them. In the end, almost the entire city consists of neo-symbiotes. The rebels arrive at the laboratory and fight off infected people as they enter. Dr. Borowski says they need to send an ultrasonic signal from the High Evolutionary's satellites to defeat all the symbiotes. While Dr. Borowski and Lord Tiger set up the equipment, Spider-Man and Jameson check the satellite dish. The worst happens. Jameson's implant shorts out, and he turns back into Man-Wolf. He fights Spider-Man and escapes at the end of the scuffle. Spider-Man and Lord Tiger begin to be consumed by symbiotes. At the last moment, they send the signal. A blue beam shoots upward, bouncing from satellite to satellite. The beams then fire downward, showering the Earth with ultrasonic waves. The symbiotes start to shrivel and leave the bodies of their hosts. At the clinic, the Goblin, Naoko and Shane return to normal. Near Wundagore Castle, the Vulture and Karen watch with relief as the spores detach from their bodies. Spider-Man collapses to his knees, exhausted, surrounded by amazed bestials. Bromley, who has become human again, steers near a pile of debris. He stands up and takes a deep breath, but then hears a rustling behind him that gets louder and louder. Bromley turns and opens his mouth in shock at the sight of something huge looming over him. The episode ends with Bromley's terrifying scream as he is confronted by King Carnage, a fusion of Venom and Carnage. The first episode of the second season could have been the best of the entire series. First, the episode is packed with many interesting and epic events. The symbiote takeover of the planet, Karen's rescue from the castle, Spider-Man and the rebels fighting Venom and Carnage, the return of Man-Wolf, and the birth of King Carnage. Additionally, the episode resolves plotlines that should have been finished or refined in the previous season, such as the Goblin's reunion with his family and Lord Tiger's motivation to help the rebels. He likes humans and wants to preserve the current civilization, so he opposes both the Synoptic and the High Evolutionary. In my opinion, this episode should have been the last of the first season. It would have been better that way. At least the season wouldn't have ended on a strange cliffhanger, and King Carnage would have been a great tease for the second season. Well, the 15th episode is titled Cat Got Your Tongue. In it, Spider-Man and the inhabitants of Counter-Earth deal with the aftermath of what happened in the previous episode. Jameson Jr. and the rebels, along with Lord Tiger, organized a fair government for both bestials and humans. As I mentioned before, Lord Tiger turned out to be good after all. He's for peace and equality. The Goblin fully returns home to Naoko and Shane. Peter Parker feels like he always messes things up and feels more lost and lonely than ever. However, he has no time to dwell on these problems, as he conducts an investigation to find the culprit behind a series of robberies. He discovers that the villain is not one, but 3 black cats, Siamese cat sisters who are bestials, beautiful, charming, and deadly. The 15th episode is a typical introductory episode for a new season. It shows the consequences of the previous episode and introduces new villains. It's a pity we never saw them in action, because the Black Cat is a great character, and I think you understand why. And having 3 of them is even cooler. It would be interesting to see how the cats of Counter-Earth would react to Spider-Man. On our Earth, the original Black Cat was attracted to him. Maybe on Counter-Earth, things would be the opposite. Most likely the cats committed crimes not just for money. I think they had a personal reason, which Spider-Man had to uncover. The 16th episode is called Nightcrawler. To Jameson's horror, Spider-Man and Karen grow closer, as she becomes the communication between humans and Lord Tiger's government. Apparently, in the second episode, Jameson returned to normal and stopped being Man-Wolf, and Peter Parker quickly switched his affections from Naoko to Karen. Life without Mary Jane is hard for him. I once joked about his fickleness. Spider-Man goes to Washington. There, an unknown killer starts taking out rebels one by one, and Karen's turn comes. The killer is the Nightcrawler, but who is it? An evil bestial, a former knight of Wundagore, or is it a jealous Jameson, or a vengeful Bromley? Spider-Man must find out to save Karen's life. I think it's definitely not Bromley. Most likely, it's either a former knight of Wundagore or Jameson, and I lean towards Jameson, since the description emphasizes him at the beginning. The 17th episode is titled Model Behavior. In it, a film producer, seeking to profit from a new social issue, proposes that Spider-Man star in a movie about human exploitation. Peter initially dislikes the idea, but then notices that the Counter-Earth version of Mary Jane is one of the actresses auditioning to be his partner. However, Spider-Man's Hollywood adventure turns deadly when he discovers how this Mary Jane got her stunning looks. She must confront her creator, Scramble, a monster capable of controlling and instantly transforming any living flesh he touches. Most likely, Scramble created Mary Jane to get closer to Spider-Man, who would be acting with her in the movie. However, the villain didn't realize how much this appearance means to Spider-Man. I think Mary Jane ultimately melts in Peter's arms, as in Spider-Man the Animated Series, and Scramble is probably the film producer. The 18th episode is called Sojourn. In it, the embodiment of the Synoptic, King Carnage, returns, and he has become much more powerful. Though he is torn by the internal conflict between the human sides of his hosts and the symbiotes, he pulls himself together, seeking the interdimensional portal that brought the High Evolutionary to Counter-Earth. He wants to use it to expand the Synoptic. The Goblin is injured by a symbiote monster, and Spider-Man hopes to use the portal to return to Earth to the real Mary Jane. Ironically, Spider-Man finds and uses the portal, but Jameson goes with him. As a result, Jameson ends up on Earth, while Spider-Man returns to the Bestials. It seems Peter Parker decided to go to Mary Jane, abandoning Counter-Earth, its inhabitants, and King Carnage. This is quite a selfish act for a hero. The first season often raised the question, is Spider-Man a hero or not, an altruist or an egoist? Apparently, Larry Brody decided to revisit the theme, showing that Spider-Man ultimately falters, but he can be understood, having seen Mary Jane's death in the previous episode. From episodes 19 to 24, Spider-Man deals with the problems of the renewed society of Counter-Earth, solves various mysteries and defeats supervillains. Ultimately, he goes on a final hunt for the remaining spaceship that can return him home. These episodes were supposed to reveal his changed relationships with Naoko, Shane and the Goblin. I wonder in what direction, for better or worse. I think Peter eventually decided to tell them that he is Spider-Man. They probably reacted poorly at first, but then came to terms with it. During his travels, he was supposed to meet Lady Ursula, who became the head of the Black Market, as well as Electro, Counter-Earth Panther, the Black Cats and others. In the end, societal concerns were supposed to come out to the forefront, just as humans and bestials began to interact normally. The High Evolutionary and Sir Ram return, even more evil and powerful. In two thrilling final episodes, Spider-Man rises from the ashes of a crushing defeat, defeats them for good, and finally returns home. I think there should have been a third season. As I understand it, the plotline with the Synoptic, Venom and Carnage was not finished, and Spider-Man should have faced this threat on his own Earth. That's where King Carnage is headed, and Spider-Man will have nowhere to run. Now he will have to protect his home and his loved ones. The second season could have been great if it had been released. It introduces new villains, continues the first season storylines and properly concludes them. Even if a third, final season never came out, the animated series would still feel somewhat complete, as Spider-Man returned home, but the creators inexplicably decided to cut the story off at a very inopportune moment. In my opinion, this was very foolish and strange. I'm very grateful to Larry Brody for publishing his materials on the second season. Now I have a sense of closure, and I can say for sure that Spider-Man Unlimited could have been one of the best Spider-Man animated series, thanks to its unique style, unconventional story and well-developed plot. If you still haven't watched this animated series, I highly recommend you to do so, even though it's unfinished. You have never seen a Spider-Man like this. But we guys do not say goodbye.